Max Beckmann, one of the most celebrated painters of the 20th century, carved his legacy through vivid, symbolic, and emotionally charged works that straddled the tumultuous landscape of modern Europe. Born on February 12, 1884, in Leipzig, Germany, Beckmann's life and artistic output reflected the shifting cultural, political, and personal upheavals of his time. His journey from an aspiring young artist to a celebrated yet exiled painter highlights not only his resilience, but also his relentless commitment to depicting the human condition. Max Carl Friedrich Beckmann was the youngest of 3 children born to a middle-class family in Leipzig. His father, a grain merchant, passed away when Max was only 10, a loss that profoundly impacted his childhood. This early confrontation with mortality and fragility would later become recurring themes in his work. Despite financial difficulties following his father's death, Beckmann exhibited a precocious talent for drawing and an early fascination with art. In 1900, at just 16, Beckmann enrolled at the Grand Ducal Saxon Art Academy in Weimar, where he studied under the direction of notable German realist artists. During these formative years, Beckmann's influences were steeped in European traditions, particularly the works of Rembrandt, Delacroix, and German Renaissance painters. Unlike his contemporaries, who gravitated toward avant-garde movements such as Impressionism, Beckmann sought to anchor himself in a figurative, narrative tradition while still pursuing modernist expressions. After completing his studies in Weimar, Beckmann moved to Berlin in 1904, where his career gained traction. By 1906, he had married Minna Tube, a pianist and artist, and began participating in major exhibitions. Beckmann's early works displayed a lyrical and almost romantic tone, reflecting his interest in biblical themes, allegory, and classical mythology. However, the relative peace and optimism of his early career would soon be upended by the cataclysm of World War I. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 marked a pivotal turning point in Beckmann's life and artistic trajectory. Volunteering as a medical orderly in the German army, Beckmann witnessed the unspeakable horrors of modern warfare: death, destruction, and the dehumanization of soldiers and civilians alike. These experiences left an indelible mark on him, both psychologically and artistically. In 1915, Beckmann suffered a nervous breakdown and was discharged from military service. The trauma of the war profoundly shifted his style and subject matter. Gone were the romanticism and idealism of his earlier works. In their place emerged a raw, expressionistic intensity. His paintings began to feature distorted figures, claustrophobic spaces, and dark symbolic imagery. This evolution positioned him as a leading figure in the German Expressionist movement, though he rejected the label, preferring to see himself as a realist confronting the brutality of life. In the aftermath of World War I, Beckmann became associated with the Neue Sachlichkeit, New Objectivity movement, a post-expressionist approach that emphasized a detached, unsentimental view of reality. Throughout the 1920s, Beckmann's work resonated with the uncertainty and disillusionment of the Weimar Republic. His paintings often portrayed urban life with a critical eye, exploring themes of alienation, decadence, and the fragility of human relationships. During this period, Beckmann began to experiment with triptychs, a format traditionally associated with religious altarpieces, but repurposed by Beckmann to depict secular, modern themes. These monumental works combined symbolic imagery, complex narratives, and layered meanings, earning him widespread acclaim. By the late 1920s, Beckmann had achieved considerable success, with his works exhibited in major galleries across Europe. He secured teaching positions at the Städelschule in Frankfurt and developed a reputation as a formidable figure in the art world. Beckmann's flourishing career was abruptly interrupted by the rise of the Nazi regime in 1933. Labeling modern art as degenerate, the Nazis targeted Beckmann's work, which they saw as antithetical to their ideological agenda. In 1937, more than 500 of his paintings were confiscated from German museums, and several were included in the infamous Degenerate Art exhibition in Munich. Humiliated and alienated, Beckmann fled Germany for Amsterdam on the very day Adolf Hitler delivered a speech condemning modern art. Beckmann's years in exile marked a period of immense personal and professional hardship. Isolated from his homeland and stripped of his institutional affiliations, he struggled to find stability. Yet, this period also proved to be one of extraordinary artistic output. Despite the challenges of living in exile, Beckmann continued to produce deeply introspective works that reflected his dislocation, resilience, and unyielding spirit. Max Beckmann's flight from Nazi Germany in 1937 marked the beginning of a new chapter defined by exile, reinvention, and resilience. Despite the hardships of displacement, Beckmann's artistic output during his years in Amsterdam and later in the United States cemented his status as one of modern art's most enduring figures. His late career was characterized by a deep introspection, his trademark use of symbolism, and his commitment to capturing the complexity of human existence against the backdrop of a fractured world. Beckmann's arrival in Amsterdam was anything but easy. Stripped of his homeland and professional networks, he found himself in a precarious position, living as a stateless refugee. The German occupation of the Netherlands during World War II further exacerbated his challenges, leaving him trapped and in constant fear of Nazi persecution. Despite these dire circumstances, Beckmann remained remarkably productive, using his art as both a refuge and a weapon against despair. His works from this period took on an even more introspective and allegorical tone. Beckmann turned inward, exploring themes of exile, identity, and the fragile nature of freedom. The triptych format, which he had begun to embrace in the 1920s, became a central feature of his artistic language. These multi-paneled works often presented enigmatic narratives populated by archetypal figures, actors, acrobats, and mythological beings, trapped in surreal, often oppressive environments. Amsterdam was also a period of financial and emotional strain for Beckmann. Unable to exhibit or sell his work freely under Nazi rule, he relied on the support of a few loyal collectors and friends. Nevertheless, his unwavering dedication to his craft and his refusal to compromise his artistic vision underscored his resilience. The end of World War II brought relief, but also new uncertainties. In 1947, Beckmann finally emigrated to the United States, where he would spend the last decade of his life. The move marked a turning point, providing him with a fresh start and an opportunity to reconnect with the international art scene. Settling first in St. Louis and later in New York City, Beckmann took up teaching positions at institutions such as Washington University in St. Louis and the Brooklyn Museum Art School. The United States offered Beckmann a sense of stability that had eluded him for years. The thriving post-war art market and growing interest in European modernism provided fertile ground for his work. American audiences and critics admired the raw emotional power and intellectual depth of his paintings, which stood in stark contrast to the emerging abstract expressionist movement. Beckmann, however, remained steadfast in his commitment to figurative art, continuing to explore themes of existential struggle, human folly, and redemption. The final years of Beckmann's career were marked by a prolific output of paintings, many of which are now considered masterpieces. His late works retained the hallmarks of his style: bold colors, dramatic compositions, and rich symbolism. Yet, they also reflected a sense of resolution and acceptance. Beckmann's lifelong fascination with myth, theater, and spirituality culminated in deeply personal and reflective pieces that examined the cyclical nature of life and death. One recurring motif in his late works was the idea of the journey. Whether literal or metaphorical, journeys appeared frequently in his paintings, often represented by ships, staircases, or pathways. These symbols spoke to Beckmann's own experiences of exile, displacement, and the search for belonging. Although Beckmann achieved significant recognition in the United States, he remained somewhat of an outsider. His work, steeped in European traditions and preoccupied with the complexities of the human condition, stood apart from the abstract and minimalist trends dominating the American art scene. Nevertheless, his unique vision found a devoted following, and his exhibitions attracted critical acclaim. On December 27, 1950, Max Beckmann suffered a fatal heart attack while walking to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. He was on his way to see his painting, Self-Portrait in Blue Jacket, which had just been added to the museum's collection. His sudden death marked the end of an extraordinary career that spanned 5 tumultuous decades and 2 continents. Beckmann's legacy as an artist lies in his ability to confront the chaos of the modern world with unflinching honesty and profound insight. His works, with their complex symbolism and psychological depth, continue to resonate with audiences, offering a window into the human condition during one of history's most turbulent eras. Today, Max Beckmann is celebrated as a master of modern art, his influence evident in the works of countless artists who followed. His paintings, housed in major museums and collections worldwide, serve as a testament to his enduring relevance and his ability to transform personal and collective struggles into timeless visual poetry.